All right, put the dick in the bag.
And so it just hurt me so bad because I wish I was there for her. I wish I was right down the street. I just wish she would have called.
On the phone screen, colorful TikTok videos appear. A young couple is smiling brightly, harmonizing with familiar music. The girl has a bright smile, bright eyes, and a confident appearance while the boy gently hugs her. Comments are full of compliments. What a couple goals. I wish I had a love like that. With thousands of followers, they have unintentionally become a role model that many people admire. A love story that seems peaceful, happy, and perfect. But few people know that behind those sparkling videos is another reality, a story that no one could have expected. March 26, 2023, the city of Columbia, South Carolina, fell into a haunting evening. Unusual noises rang out in an apartment building, shattering the peaceful atmosphere of Sunday. When authorities arrived at the scene, they discovered a heartbreaking truth. A young, promising life had ended in a short moment. It was Wynter Nicole Straw, 25 years old, a familiar face in the local community, a sports star who once led the Allen University women's basketball team to historic glory, and a dedicated employee at the South Carolina Department of Corrections. She was remembered by friends, colleagues, and family not only for her talent, but also for her kindness, always putting others before herself. Wynter's passing was not only a personal tragedy, but also a shocking wake-up call, because the person directly involved in this incident was none other than the person she shared her love with and appeared with on social media. Those seemingly perfect love images have now become a haunting reminder that social media does not always reflect the truth. Behind a bright smile, sometimes there is a secret that no one can see. Behind a seemingly ideal love, sometimes there is a story that no one wants to believe is true. And in Wynter's case, those final TikTok videos accidentally became an unexpected farewell. Wynter Nicole Straw's story not only shocked the Columbia community, but also made thousands of people ask the question, do we really know what is happening behind the photos and videos we see every day? Wynter Nicole Straw was born on July 30, 1997 in Columbia, South Carolina. From her earliest years, everyone around her could see that there was something special about this little girl. Her positive energy, bright eyes, and warm demeanor made Wynter the center of attention wherever she went. Her mother, LaShawn Williams, raised her daughter with love and discipline, always hoping that Wynter would grow up to be a person with both knowledge and a kind heart. During her teenage years, Wynter attended Columbia High School. Here, she was not only an excellent student but also a true sports star. With her outstanding height and determined spirit, Wynter quickly became a pillar of the school's girls' basketball team. Every time she stepped onto the court, she showed her focus and strong will, attracting the attention of both spectators and opponents. Along with sports, Wynter's academic achievements also make teachers proud. What impresses people the most is not just her high scores or her fiery matches, but the way Wynter treats others. She often takes the initiative to help her friends who are having difficulty studying, staying after class to explain the lesson to them. On the soccer field, if a teammate is down, Wynter will be the first to step forward, put her hand on their shoulder, and say a few words of encouragement. It is this concern that makes her a fire that energizes the whole team. After graduating in 2015, Wynter received a full scholarship to Allen University, a historically black university. This was an important turning point. At Allen, Wynter did not focus on just one sport, but also participated in basketball and volleyball. Despite her busy training schedule, she never backed down. Teammates often say that even when she was at her most exhausted, Wynter still smiled and encouraged everyone. We can do it. The pinnacle of her athletic career came in 2016, when the Allen women's basketball team won its first historic championship. The joy of victory was overwhelming, but for Wynter, the most memorable thing was not the trophy but the unity of the team. She always viewed success as a collective effort, not just an individual one. Off the field, Wynter was an active member of the Delta Sigma Theta, Gamma Pi chapter. Her friends described her as a role model, living up to the values of scholarship, sisterhood, and giving back to society. Winter organized many community activities, encouraging young students to believe in themselves and set big goals. In school, Winter majored in social sciences with a pre-law orientation. She often passionately discussed justice, the rights of the vulnerable. Lecturers fondly recall the late afternoons when Winter stayed in class, asking thoughtful questions about the legal system, showing that she truly harbored a dream of becoming a lawyer. In 2020, Winter graduated and chose a difficult path, a career as a mental health support officer at the South Carolina Department of Corrections. The job required patience, empathy, and a steely spirit, as she dealt with individuals suffering from psychological trauma every day. Yet Winter always saw this as an opportunity to help, to listen. Colleagues say she had the ability to make even the most closed-off people open up. To Winter, they were not prisoners, but people in need of healing. Despite her busy schedule, Winter never forgets to return to Allen University to mentor her juniors. She cheers at games, talks to new students, and shares her experiences in overcoming difficulties. Wherever she goes, Winter leaves her mark with a kind heart. And then, like many other young people, Winter finds love. Her companion is Renardo Johnson, a boy from the neighborhood. They quickly become a couple admired by many people, not only because of their compatibility in daily life, but also because of their brilliant presence on TikTok. In short videos, Winter and Renardo appear with funny dances, simple everyday moments. They cook, joke, and sing along to music. Each clip attracts thousands of views with comments full of compliments. Dream couple, love is so beautiful, be happy forever. Followers call them couple goals as a symbol of modern love. What makes people believe in that love is the naturalness. Winter is fresh, genuine, and not forced. Renardo is also always gentle and caring. Friends and family feel assured when looking at social networks. Winter has found happiness. However, there is a harsh truth that few people expect. Social networks only reflect moments chosen to be public. Smiles, hugs, happy music, all are just part of the picture. The rest, no one knows clearly. For Winter, love seems to be on the right track. She continues to develop her career, plans to continue studying law, and shares daily joys with her lover. Everything seems to be going perfectly. Career, love, friends, family all in hand. But it was precisely that perfection that made the shock that followed all the more unbelievable. Because no relative or colleague ever thought that just a few months later, Winter, the girl who once spread light and hope, would leave forever in an unforeseen event. On Sunday, March 26, 2023, the atmosphere in Columbia was as calm as any other weekend. Families in the Carrington Place apartment complex on Mallet Hill were preparing dinner, children were playing in the common yard, and many people had just returned from a day off. However, around 6 p.m., that peace was suddenly broken. Unusual sounds echoed throughout the apartment complex. Residents called 911 in panic, their voices trembling with fear that something serious had just happened. Within minutes, a Richland County Sheriff's Department patrol car sped up, its red and blue lights flashing through the dusk. When officers approached the scene, they immediately knew this was no ordinary incident. In front of one of the apartment buildings, a figure lay motionless. The entire area was quickly cordoned off with yellow tape, and residents were evacuated. In the shocked eyes of neighbors, investigators confirmed the young woman showed no signs of life. The victim's identity was determined that night. It was Winter Nicole Straw, 25 years old, a name that many people in the city knew with pride. Sports star, dedicated employee, filial daughter. The information spread like a shock. Many residents whispered to each other that, just a few days ago, they had seen Winter smiling as she entered the building with her boyfriend. While the authorities set up barricades to protect the scene, the news began to spread throughout Columbia. Social media was quickly filled with questions because no one could believe. The girl with the bright smile in those TikTok videos was now gone. That night, police lights illuminated the entire apartment complex, replacing the simple garden lights. Neighbors huddled behind the fence, holding their children tightly, whispering worriedly. What should have been a peaceful evening suddenly turned into a nightmare, and the name Winter Straw began to appear frequently in the urgent news bulletins. Once the Carrington Place apartment complex was completely sealed off, the Richland County Special Crime Investigation Team quickly moved in. Specialized vehicles were parked close together, the white light from the mobile lights shining directly on the ground, turning the familiar parking lot into a strict crime scene. The investigators moved slowly, meticulously recording every detail. Forensic cameras captured every angle, from the location where Winter was found to the scattered evidence nearby. No trace was overlooked, from skid marks on the ground to faint shoe prints to remaining personal items. All could become important pieces in reconstructing what happened before. In parallel with collecting evidence, the police checked the security camera system around the apartment complex. Within a few hours, they had in hand a video showing a man appearing in the area that afternoon. The appearance and license plate quickly led them to a clear conclusion. This person was not a stranger, but Winter's boyfriend, Renardo Johnson. Neighbors' testimonies further reinforced the hypothesis. Many residents confirmed that they had seen Winter and Renardo together in the previous days, still cheerful, showing no signs of unusual stress. It was this normality that made the investigators wonder, how could a peaceful afternoon turn into a tragedy in just a few short moments? The initial forensic report said, Winter died on the spot, with no chance of being saved. The results of the examination of the scene showed that all factors pointed to a single scenario. This was not a random incident, but a deliberate act, stemming from a personal relationship. When the first lines were recorded in the minutes, the atmosphere at the scene was heavy. The officers present knew this was not simply a criminal case, but a family tragedy, a tragedy that had claimed the life of a girl loved by the entire community. As soon as the forensics team completed their initial task, the critical information was relayed to the scene commander. The suspect, Winter's boyfriend, had not left the apartment complex. He had locked himself inside and barricaded himself inside. The area immediately transformed from a forensic scene to a crisis response operation. Small armored vehicles were called in, and officers in full tactical gear surrounded the building. Nearby residents were evacuated, children were taken to the opposite apartment complex, and parents tried to calm their children through the flashing lights and constant loudspeakers. Sheriff Leon Lott, the head of the Richland County Sheriff's Department, was on the scene himself. He understood that this was more than just a criminal case, it was a test for the entire force. Facing them was a man in an unstable mental state who could act suddenly at any moment. While the special forces held the siege, a professional negotiation team began to work. They used phones, loudspeakers, and even tried many ways to connect with the people inside. The voice over the loudspeaker echoed throughout the parking lot, a call to calm down, to come out and let things be resolved peacefully. Time passed slowly. Each minute felt like hours. The remaining residents watched in silence, many unaware that they were witnessing the final stages of a tragedy. In the meantime, the police received a report that complicated the situation even more. There might be a child trapped inside the apartment with the suspect. With just one sentence transmitted over the radio, the entire operation immediately switched to the highest priority state. If there were really children there, every decision the police made had to be carefully calculated, because any mistake could have dire consequences. The next few hours were a series of tense negotiations. The negotiators took turns talking, patiently repeating the message. "You are not alone. Let us help you. Come out and end this peacefully." Each word was carefully chosen, hoping to move the psychology of the people inside. But all that was in response was a long silence. Occasionally, a slight noise could be heard, but it was not enough to determine the situation. From the outside, no one could see clearly, making the atmosphere even more suffocating. About 3 hours passed. It was getting dark, the red and blue lights still flashing continuously against the Colombian night. Suddenly, all communication signals from inside stopped. The negotiators called, but no one answered. Through the loudspeaker, they patiently spoke, but there was no response. An unusual silence fell, as if the apartment had been completely sealed off. A few minutes later, a brief sound came from inside, and then silence. Tactical units moved in immediately. The door was broken down to control the situation. When the force broke in, they found the man inside was no longer able to respond. He was rushed to a nearby hospital but was later confirmed dead. This ending meant that the investigation file would never have a direct statement from the suspect. All the questions of why would forever remain unanswered. For the police, this was one of the saddest situations, when all efforts at negotiation could not be saved, and 2 lives ended in just one evening. This is a heartbreaking example of how seemingly normal relationships can turn tragic, Sheriff Leon Lott said afterward. And that tragedy affects not just one family, but an entire community. The case was officially closed. There was no trial, no testimony, no opportunity for confrontation. All that remained were forensic reports, body camera footage, and notes in the diary of the officer on duty that night. But for the Winter family, for their friends, for their colleagues, the pain remained forever. As news of Winter's death spread, Columbia was in a state of shock. The next day, headlines were plastered across the local paper. Television news devoted several minutes to her memory, stressing that the community had lost a young star, a woman who had lived her life to the fullest. At the South Carolina Department of Corrections, where Winter worked, the mood was somber. Colleagues remembered her as someone who always smiled, always helped, and never complained about the pressure of work. She was the epitome of dedication. The agency's director choked up as he admitted, "We lost a valued colleague, and those she supported lost a spiritual supporter." Allen University, where Winter had once made a name for herself on the women's basketball team, immediately organized a vigil and memorial service. A photo of her in her uniform was placed in the center of the gymnasium, surrounded by flowers and handwritten messages from students. Coaches and teammates were moved to tears as they recalled the historic 2016 season, when Winter played a key role in the team's first win. The Delta Sigma Theta Gamma Pi chapter also held a memorial service. Those who had worked alongside Winter in volunteer work now wore red, the color of the fraternity, and recited a pledge to continue the path she had begun, giving back to the community through concrete actions. Meanwhile, Winter's family faced an unfillable void. Her mother, Lashon, tearfully shared that there were no signs. The statement quickly made headlines because it touched on a deep fear. Sometimes tragedy strikes even when we believe everything is fine. No trial took place, but public opinion, with its regret, with its messages, with its indignation at the tragic ending, gave a different sentence. A sentence for silence, for the invisibility of relationships that contained risks that no one had time to realize. The story of Winter Nicole Straw ended in heartbreak, but its echoes still resonate in the community. The most haunting thing is her mother's words. There were no warning signs. A simple sentence, but enough to expose the terrifying truth that violence in relationships can be hidden behind smiles, behind glamorous videos on social media, and sometimes leave no signs until it's too late. Today, millions of people are still sharing images of perfect love on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook. But what appears in front of the camera is just the tip of the iceberg. We cannot know if behind those closed doors, our friends or relatives are silently suffering. Winter lived a meaningful 25 years, a talented athlete, a dedicated colleague, a filial son, a friend who always listened. She left a mark of good things, but died in an unexpected tragedy. Her passing is a wake-up call, reminding us all of the importance of caring, listening, and paying attention to the loved ones around us. The question for each of us is, are we sensitive enough to recognize when someone needs help, even if they don't say it? And are we ready to act before it's too late? If you or a loved one is feeling insecure in a relationship, remember that you are not alone. Seek support from family, friends, or organizations that specialize in helping victims of domestic violence. Because silence can sometimes be the last barrier between a promising life and an unwanted tragedy.